Hello, this is Dr. Ominde. So I'm going to take you through a series of lectures on the connective tissue. So, okay, so I'll begin. So these will be the objectives of the presentation, the functions of connective tissue, classification, which cells do we find in the connective tissue, the types, and the applied anatomy. What are the functions of connective tissue? They help to establish a structural framework, okay, like the body framework, transports fluids and dissolved materials like blood, protect delicate organs, the way you have fat around organs such as the heart and the viscera in the abdomen, then supports surrounding and interconnecting tissues such as fascia, then strong energy reserves like in fat, and defending the body from microorganisms, the immune cells in blood. So connective tissue can be classified in many ways depending on which book you read. So we have connective tissue proper, divided into loose or dense. Loose is where you have a loose open framework of fiber, and in dense you have a dense framework of fiber which is densely packed. So we have three types of loose connective tissue: areolar, adipose, and reticular. And you have two types of dense, three types of dense tissue: dense regular, dense irregular, and elastic fiber. Then you can again have the fluid connective tissue where there is blood and lymph. Blood is what is within the cardiovascular system, and lymph is within the lymphatic system. Then we have supporting connective tissue. Two examples, cartilage and bone, and we have three types of cartilage in the body: hyaline, elastic, and fibrocartilage. Cartilage is just solid with rubbery matrix, and then we have bone, which is solid and contains crystalline matrix. So those are the different ways of classifying connective tissue. You have connective tissue proper, loose and dense, fluid connective tissue where you have blood and lymph, and supporting connective tissue where you have cartilage and bone. So for each connective tissue, you need to know that connective tissue is made up of cells and extracellular matrix, the matrix outside the cell. And this matrix always has two parts. It always has the ground substance and fiber. So for any connective tissue they ask you to discuss, start by it's composed of cells and extracellular matrix. You list the cells. Then when you go to matrix, you say the matrix has the ground substance, which is a gel-like substance, and fiber. So the fibers could be collagen, elastic fiber, or reticular fiber. So we start. We have dense regular connective tissue. This is connective tissue proper, dense regular. So there are two types of connective tissue proper. We have loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. So this image shows you dense regular. You can see the dense fibers, collagen fibers. So which cells are in connective tissue proper? Fibroblasts, fibrocytes, defense cells, and fat cells. And the matrix has ground substance and the three types of fiber: collagen, reticular, and elastic fiber. What are the general features of connective tissue proper? Basically, there are different types, so we'll learn them, but of importance is that they resist mechanical stress, particularly the tension stress, and they act as binding tissue. Then we have the supporting tissue, such as cartilage. We have three types of cartilage: hyaline, elastic, and fibrocartilage. The cells in cartilage are called chondroblast cells or chondrocytes. Chondroblasts are the young cells, okay? They're found in growing cartilage. Then after they have laid down matrix, they remain in lacuna as chondrocytes. So cartilage has cells, chondroblasts and chondrocytes, and also has extracellular matrix composed of ground substance, which is a gel-like substance, and fiber, which could be collagen or elastic fiber. The functions of cartilage: they resist compression because of large amount of water in the matrix, and they cushion and support body structures. Then we go to bone, which is another connective tissue proper. There are two types of bone: compact bone and spongy bone. You've eaten chicken, so the outer part is compact bone when you're chewing the bone. Then the inner part is a spongy bone containing marrow. So what are the cells in the bone? Osteoblasts and osteocytes. So we have cells, osteoblasts, osteocytes. You will learn about other cells like osteoprogenitor cells and osteoclasts. So those are the four types of cells in bone. Osteoprogenitor cells are the primordial cells. Then they grow up and become osteoblasts. Then osteoblasts lay down the matrix, and then they remain in lacuna as osteocytes. Just like in cartilage, the cells in lacuna were chondrocytes. Then last cell is osteoclasts. Osteoclasts are members of the monocytic phagocytic system. They are large multinucleated, so they are giant multinucleated cells with ruffle borders because they have microvilli on their surface. Okay, so these are cells of the monocytic phagocytic system, the osteoclast. So those are the 4 cells in bones. Then the extracellular matrix has gel-like substance which contains ground substance, and the ground substance in bone has 2 parts, the organic and inorganic. So organic will contain the organic substances, factors of the ground substance like glycosaminoglycans, proteoglycans, and so on and so forth. Heparan sulfate, keratin sulfate, all those are organic. And then bone also has inorganic salts such as calcium hydroxide apatite. Then the fiber in bone is collagen type 3. So in bone, the main function, it's a hard tissue, so it will resist compression and tension, and main function is in support. Then we have the fluid proper connective tissue like blood. Of course, you know blood has cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. So red blood cells are called erythrocytes. White blood cells are called leukocytes, and they can be divided into 2. The ones with granules in the cytoplasm, granulocytes, okay, such as eosinophils, basophils, and neutrophils. Those are granulocytes. And leukocytes without granules in the cytoplasms are called agranulocytes, such as monocytes and lymphocytes. Then the last cell of connective tissue is the platelets. What is contained within the matrix of blood? We have plasma, is the fluid part of blood. Blood does not have fiber, okay? It's the connective tissue that has no fiber. So blood is a fluid tissue. It helps to carry oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, waste, and other substances such as hormones. So as I have said, the components of connective tissue, you always start cells and extracellular matrix. The matrix contains ground substance, and the extracellular fiber, we have elastic, reticular, or collagen fibers. So what makes the ground substance? We have proteoglycans. You need to at least know the components. We can ask you list 5 components of the ground substance. We have proteoglycans such as glycosaminoglycan, protein core such as hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, keratin sulfate, and heparan sulfate. And we also have glycoproteins such as fibronectin, laminin, and chondronectin. We go to the cells in connective tissue proper. The first cell is the fibroblast. Fibroblast is responsible for synthesis of collagen, elastic, and reticular fiber. Okay, and it's usually a spindle-shaped cell with flattened process and an oval nucleus. So you can see this is a fibroblast, spindle shape. This is one fibroblast and a flattened nucleus. This is a fibroblast. This is what we call a spindle shape. Okay, it's like wider at the center, then it tapers off at the ends. The ends are thinner, then the center is wide, and then you have your flattened nucleus. You can see it tapers at the end. So it's spindle-shaped cells with flattened nucleus, fibroblasts, to synthesize elastic fibers, collagen fibers. Then we have macrophages. Macrophages are derived from monocytes in the bone marrow, okay? And they are usually irregular, small, okay? And they are denser than the fibroblasts, and they have an oval nucleus. What are the functions of macrophages? Macrophages carry out chemotaxis. They release chemotactic factors. Now, like if you cut yourself on your hand, the first cell that responds, immune cell that responds, is the neutrophil. Neutrophil will produce cytokines that will call the macrophage. So the macrophage now comes in. So the macrophage is chemotaxis. It's able to, taxis is movement, is able to move towards the chemical substance that has been produced by the neutrophil at the site of the wound. Then when the macrophage comes, it engulfs the bacteria that is around that wound. That's what we call phagocytosis, and bring it inside into the lysosome to destroy the bacteria, whatever microbe it is. Macrophages also act as antigen-presenting cells, okay, which you will do more in your physiology. It takes up phagocytoses, the microbe, and goes to present it to a T cell. In most cases, that's what happens. And then macrophages also help to regulate the immune system because they produce cytokines. So they produce chemotactic factor. They are chemotactic themselves. They move towards a chemical substance produced such as cytokines. So they produce cytokines also. They cause phagocytosis. They secrete substances that can destroy the microbes such as lysozymes, and then they act as antigen presenting cells. We have mast cells. These are located in the vicinity of blood vessels, and they can be recognized by their size. These mast cells are usually large, round, with a centrally located nucleus, and they have numerous granules in their cytoplasm. So they are large, round, with central nuclei and small granules in the cytoplasms. Those are mast cells around blood vessels. Okay, so these are endothelial cells of the capillary. This is a mast cell. So you can see the granules in the cytoplasm. They look like sand granules. It's a large with a central nuclei. This is a mast cell. Okay. Fat cells, adipocytes. Adipocytes are fat cells. So these ones, they store lipids. Okay, they store lipids and form adipose tissue. What is the function of adipose? It goes around organs like the heart to protect them. So it cushions organs. So what are the morphology of the fat cells? So they usually look round, and the nucleus is eccentric. So they have a round eccentric nucleus, but the cell has empty space. It looks like it has empty space because fat, these lipids do not take up stain. Okay, so they'll appear clear. So that's why it looks like you have an empty space, and the fat is so much in the cell, it pushes the nucleus to the side and the cytoplasm too. So the cytoplasm looks like a thin rim of cytoplasm. So this is what I mean. The cells look clear. They contain fat. Adipocytes contain fat that do not take up the stain. So it looks clear. Then it pushes the cytoplasm to the edge, so that you have a thin rim of cytoplasm, and nucleus has also been pushed to the edge. So when you see this, medical students just know this is an adipocyte. Okay, clear cell, thin rim of cytoplasm with the nucleus, eccentric nucleus at the side. Then plasma cell, this is a major cell in chronic inflammation. They're usually small and round. Okay, and they also are part of the connective tissue. They are immune cells within the connective tissue. Okay, so usually these plasma cells, they have what you call acentric nuclei. Okay, the chromatin of this nuclei, they look like a clock face. If you look at the clock on the wall, it has 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So the chromatin in the nuclei of plasma cell give it a clock face appearance. So if you look at this plasma cell, it's like you can tell it looks like a clock face, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3. That's what we call the clock face nuclei of a plasma cell. So then we go to connective tissue proper. This is the classification. We say the loose connective tissue. We have embryonic mesenchyme. Mesenchyme in embryo is loose connective tissue. Then we also have areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue. Then connective tissue proper can also have the dense type, where we have the dense regular connective tissue and dense irregular connective tissue. Okay, so the loose connective tissue, we have areola. Of course, you start the cells. We have fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cells, and we also have the ground substance, which is gel-like, the extracellular matrix. So areola just wraps and cushions the organs. So where do we find it? In the lamina propria. Medical students, even BSc, will ask you in your CBT, name 4 areas with areola tissue. Lamina propria of mucous glands, functions to package organs, and also it's found around capillaries. Okay, so when you see this tissue with these thread-like substances, these are areola elastic fibers, but the fibers are few. Okay, and you can appreciate some collagen fibers here, and these are nucleofibroblasts. This is your areola connective tissue. Then, as you can see, the different types, elastic, collagen fibers, and then you have your fibroblast. This is a lymphocyte. We'll discuss the blood cells later. This is your adipocyte. Look, the nucleus is large, the fat is large. It has pushed the nucleus to the edge, and now you have a thin rim of cytoplasm around it. This is collagen. These are elastic fibers. This is a mast cell. We said you have many granules in the cytoplasm. We'll talk about a neutrophil later. It's multilobulated, and we'll talk about neutrophil. Macrophage. Look, we've discussed a macrophage. Okay. So then we go to adipose. We have already talked about this. Okay, we said to insulate, so it protects against heat loss and it protects organs. It's around the heart. Again, clear cell doesn't take up stain, pushes the cytoplasm to the edge, and the nuclei flattened at the edge. So this is adipose. So where do we find it? In the hypodermis of the skin, around the kidney, in the eyeball, within the abdomen, in the breast. Name 4 areas with adipose tissue: abdomen, breast, around the kidneys, hypodermis, in the eyeball. So those are the answers you will give. This is the breast. So I'll continue in another video, because this videos only allow me to do 15 minutes and I have 15 seconds to go.